because they know we all strapped. But the problem is these politicians don't realize the same shit. God didn't allow us to survive all of the years of bad shit that we went through as a country for us to get this far, for us to fall fucking to the wayside because of these demon, devil worshiping pieces of shit. Absolutely not. That's why Barack Obama, who would have a staff of well over 100 people, Andrew McCabe, James Comey, all these, they have dozens of people working for him, dozens of people thinking for him, coming up with strategies, and all of these dumb motherfuckers sat in the room and still couldn't come up successfully with a fucking plan to fucking accuse this president of something successfully. Instead, they made up an idea that some fucking dirty prostitutes in Russia pissed on them. Then they used that shit in order to lie, to procure a fucking indictment, to procure an affidavit in order to start to even look into Papadopoulos, who they already knew was a CIA asset. These motherfuckers knew since 2016 that there was no fucking Russian collusion, but they was trying to save Hillary ass because Donald Trump told you she stole 20% of our fucking uranium to Russia. Let me get into this. I love Sean Hannity, even though I haven't been invited on the show. Still love him. You know, and the thing is, when decent men are trying to talk to you and explain things to you, it kind of, it makes it, when you're pissed, it makes it hard to listen to because you feel like, I've heard this shit already. You feel like, you know, this isn't something. And then you have people who don't really understand what's going on. So for all of this, I would like to be able to use some content here. Found on Sean Hannity's show. And I'm going to just, excuse me, break some things down to you, the viewers watching.
We gave with a Fox News alert, but it will take, well, the next 10 hours to give you all the news we have. We're trying to break it down as best we can. We have two breaking news stories we are tracking tonight. First, just moments ago, we received definitive evidence that the corrupt, the compromised, congenital liar, that guy that I've been telling you about, Adam Schiff, he has willfully been deceiving you, we, the American people, for years. Transcripts he's been hiding from the House Intel Committee's witch hunt into Russian, quote, interference have finally been released, thanks to the Director of National Intelligence, and Attorney General Barr. Adam Schiff is being exposed as being a bigger liar than we even thought. Also, documents revealing bombshell new information on what Barack Obama knew about deep state spying. He knew a lot more than we ever knew. We have those details coming up. Also breaking tonight, the Department of Justice and Attorney General Barr rightly have dropped all charges against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And that means soon his nearly 4-year nightmare and ordeal will be over, and only if the presiding federal judge, Emmett So.
If this judge does not sign off on it, it only means he's complacent as well. It only means he's complacent as well. If the DOJ, who has to bring charges, are saying we don't want to bring charges, did it just tell me my chat is closed? Did it just try to tell me my chat is closed? My chat can't be closed. Do me a favor. Type in my chat, y'all, and tell me if it's letting you type in the chat. Tell me if it's letting you. Tell me if YouTube is letting you type in the chat. Because I shouldn't have to have done anything. This is a show where you need to be 18 years of age in order to watch it in the first place. This is clearly not a children's show. I can't see anything in the chat. Nothing. I don't see the chat texting at all. I don't see the chat going off at all. I don't see the chat at all. Like, I'm trying to see the chat. I don't see the chat going off at all. No, I see y'all here. I'm talking about on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, I can't see it. Is people talking in it? Producer, I know you watching. Could you please let me know or inform me? I'm over here trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, thank you. All right, so and here it is. You got this dude. If he don't sign off on it, he's complacent. He's complacent. He's involved. You don't need to be a fucking rocket scientist. I don't give a fuck if you are the fry cook and fucking Wendy's. Anyone hearing this and after we're done, if you can't tell me Barack Obama should be in jail and all of these people should be in jail, something's seriously fucking wrong with you.
Sullivan agrees with the DOJ's motion. Flynn was, we've told you for years, and is an innocent man. He's an honorable man, a 33-year veteran who served his country with distinction. But because of his support for President Trump, he, like the president, many other people around the president, they were subjected to years of total.
See, before the brother get into that, the shit that's going on with Flynn is this: when Obama first had him, and during his last 4 years, they tried to get shit on Flint, and Flint wasn't for sale. Every one of these politicians, every last one of them, are compromised. That's why all of them get to get anywhere in the first place. They realize that they can control them with something that they've done, so they hold it above their heads, and they use them, and they create puppets. Donald Trump is no one's puppet. It's clear that Barry, who goes by Barack now, has a whole lot to hide. That's why that birth certificate was doctored. So let a person of color tell you that that birth certificate is doctored. Matter of fact, the next show we do that I prepare, we'll go over that birth certificate if we can still get the information, since I'm on a road now and I'm going to talk about Barry bitch ass.
Hell by a corrupt group of dirty cops, to quote Joe DeGenova. First time he said it on the show, I flinched. They're dirty cops. All my family was in law enforcement. That's not how we believe cops act or FBI acts. And you know what? It was only 1%, not the rank and file. What happened to General Flynn is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to lay out a comprehensive timeline of this corruption. We will detail the very real crimes that we believe were committed by these few high-ranking bad actors. We'll call out.
And the thing is, we've been saying this shit to you since the very beginning.
The media mob, the acting cheerleaders for government malfeasance. They were going after phony stories like Russia collusion and Ukraine quid pro quos.
The media is complacent as well. The CIA has operatives that they've placed well within the media, and all of these people have been saying a bunch of bullshit. Now, again, once I'm elected, it will be my duty as well to make sure that whenever a news station or publisher publishes anything, and it's proven false, that they would have to spend the same amount of time of coverage to then change what they did. So, and I don't care if it was just like, let's just say one person reports that there was Trump collusion, then everyone reports what CNN said, because CNN is someone, right? So everyone, MSNBC, everyone reports it, right? I'm going to make all of them report on it being a lie until it receives the same amount of coverage. That means that CNN would have to report that they lied to everybody, but they would have to report it enough combined with everybody. You see what I'm saying now? So whatever coverage that MSNBC had, whatever coverage that CBS had, whatever coverage that ABC had, whatever coverage that you got to combine them all together. I want them all together. Now, each one specifically would have to achieve that same number and that same goal. You can't share it. The only thing you can share is a lie that you started. See? But now, owning up to it is going to have to be a responsibility all on your own. And every last one of you are going to be responsible for that number.
Ignored Hillary's dirty Russian dossier, Russian disinformation from the get-go. They ignored, you're not getting the million unless you fire the prosecutor, paying my inexperienced son millions just to go after Donald Trump. It has been a two-tiered justice system, two-tiered coverage in your media mob. The Attorney General is now speaking out. We have part of that interview he gave earlier tonight. Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, will join us. The great one, Mark Levin, will weigh in. And later, wow, thank God she's free. We will have an exclusive interview with Shelley Luther. She was the salon owner that was told, you apologize to the government or you're going to jail. What?
They call the Mark Levin the great one. They call me the one. The one. That's what they call me. Mark Levin is the great one. They call me the one.
Far left-wing judge put her behind bars, slapped her with a $7,000 fine because she wanted her employees to be able to feed their kids, and she refused to apologize for trying to feed her children and those that work for her. She's a hero for standing up to that judge. First, we got to address what is the foundation of this great republic. What is it? Our Constitution, liberty, before he was elected. Shortly after the DOJ's announcement, Lieutenant General Flynn, he tweeted out this video of his grandson. It reminds us that there
I'm gonna let this rock,
people,
but I want to get to this. I want to get to the mustard and catch up.
With good people in
I want to get to the mustard and catch up. But this right here is just a worth watch.
The lyrics to the flag, United States of America, and to the Republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God, and the vegetable of liberty and justice.
All right. Maybe you could teach Joe Biden how to say things.
Yeah, because he forgot.
He got it right. General Flynn's grandson understands the core American principle better than some of these corrupt bad actors who tried to persecute his grandfather. Let's take a look at how we got here. Let's start in early January 2017, before President Trump was even sworn into office.
Okay, listen. Everything that you're about to see is hard work, and it's done by a diligent team on behalf of Fox 5. Okay? This footage, I've sped it up. That way I don't have copyright issues because I've been dealing with a lot of hate. You understand, from all sides. A lot of people don't want me to just remix their shit. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you finna get this remix. All right, so following the compilation of above information, the CH team determined that Crossfire Razor was no longer a viable candidate as part of the larger Crossfire Hurricane umbrella case.
The FBI determined Flynn had done nothing wrong, nothing. In fact, Comey's Crossfire Hurricane investigation found no evidence of collusion from anyone associated with Donald Trump.
Now, that's for sure what was written about General Flynn in 2017. But we're going to get to the mustard and the ketchup.
Thanks to a recent document discovery, we learned that by January 2017, there was no derogatory material on Flynn in the FBI's files. Zero in the Defense Intel Agency files. Zero derogatory material as it relates to material in the CIA files. And we know that by January 4, 2017, the case against Flynn was supposed to be closed. That is, until the FBI leadership on the infamous 7th floor got involved. That same day, Peter Strzok pleaded, don't close out the case. And in comes Jim Comey. A few weeks later, 4th day to the Trump administration. Strzok is asking, quote, what is our goal? Truth, admission, or to get General Flynn to lie so that then we can prosecute him and get him fired or get him fired. Those words should never come out of anybody in the FBI, ever. The goal should be justice and truth always. That's not a question that he should have ever asked. The fact that he asked it and got answers is scary. That quote, quite literally, is the definition of a perjury trap. But in Jim Comey's FBI, well, it was all means to an end. January 24th, Mr. Higher Loyalty, super patriot himself, Jim Comey, he directed his agents to ambush General Flynn at the White House. And
first, he's already disclosed that under other conditions, he would have normally went through the proper chain of command, because clearly what he did was against chain of command, if not against the law. If not against the law. Because you have to think about this. Without giving the White House formal knowledge of your intentions, it becomes you spying automatically. It becomes you spying automatically.
As he bragged about to take advantage of the chaos in the White House, something he wouldn't do in the Obama Bush administrations or get away with, and push aside all due process, which would be going through the White House General Counsel. In other words, Comey's disreputable right-hand man, Deputy Director McCabe, well, he just told Flynn, oh, you don't need a lawyer. That was a lie, too. It was all a setup. And Comey sent them in. And like the idiotic, pompous jackass that Jim Comey bragged about, well, he bragged about the whole dirty trick on camera. Now think about this. Does this sound like a guy that has a higher loyalty to truth, honor, law enforcement, the Constitution of the United States? Because to me, he's the dirty cop that Joe DeGeneva warned us about.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the same room. How did that happen?
I sent them.
They laughed. They thought it was a joke. It's not. Because if that happened to any one of them that was laughing, they would want to die before going to prison, especially if they're innocent.
Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals, and it would be there. And I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
Yeah, you think that's funny, Jim? Really? This is a 33-year veteran of this country, Jim Comey. Really? You don't need a lawyer? You're sending him in. You're setting him up. You're doing...
General Flynn should be able to sue Comey personally as well.
Things you wouldn't do to anybody else? Wow. Jim Comey was using the Logan Act, 1799 law that nobody's ever been prosecuted under, ever, to squeeze Lieutenant General Flynn. Nobody ever found guilty of violating that obscure law since 1799. And get this, the agents that conducted the ambush, they didn't think that Flynn was lying. We don't have the original 302 notes that Strzok and Page are talking about seemingly altering later on. Because in search of a crime, you got people like Strzok and Page doing the bidding of Comey and McCabe. They made significant revisions to the initial 302. In other words, they changed the interview notes. They set them up again. And by the way, they invented the perjury trap. That's by saying you don't need a lawyer. Well, what's our goal here? Do we want him to lie? We want to set him up for perjury so he gets prosecuted? And all the while, Comey, McCabe, Rod Rosenstein, and others, they themselves premeditated fraud on the FISA court. Heard that a lot from me over the last 3 years, despite knowing full well that Hillary's bought and paid for dossier, even the New York Toilet Paper Times figured out was likely Russian disinformation from the beginning. Yeah, she paid for Russian interference, and they used it as the basis, the bulk of information on the FISA warrant applications. Oh, by the way, we learned an awful lot in these papers today about that. We'll get to that. And by the way, that was to take away Carter Page's civil liberties and constitutional rights. And in June of 2017, well into the Trump administration, McCabe, Rosenstein, they signed off on the fourth FISA renewal.
And they all knew.
Only problem is they knew months earlier that it was useless. They had debunked it. They knew it wasn't true. They knew the subsource, after 3 interviews, had said, nah, Steele, that's not accurate. August 2nd, 2017, you have acting AG Rod Rosenstein providing Robert Mueller with a letter detailing the scope of the investigation. Now, that scope consisted of a few dozen baseless charges and a few allegations totally unrelated to collusion. The accusations against General Flynn had previously been debunked by the FBI in early January. Premeditated fraud on a FISA court. They were warned before the October 2016 FISA application. We have in these papers Andrew McCabe admitting, I don't know,
Unemployment hit a record high.
True. And then he also said, without it, they never would have gotten the FISA application approved. That was what, in part, guys like Adam Schiff have been hiding from we, the people, all this time that we found out today. The Mueller probe was always a political witch hunt. It was a hoax. It was a conspiracy against Donald Trump. This was an attempted coup to undo a duly elected president and take him down and lie about it the whole way. That's why they turned the screws on Flynn. I'm looking at the tweets by idiots like Schiff and Nadler today.
China's blaming the U.S. for this whole virus thing.
What?
Uh-oh, propaganda.
Yeah, sorry on TV.
Well, General Michael Flynn greeted the news of the DOJ dismissing the charges against him by tweeting the words, "Justice for all," with a video of his grandson reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's do it again.
A federal judge overseeing the case still has to sign off on this. Joining me right now,
she's watching.
General Flynn's lead attorney, Sidney Powell. Sidney, it is great to see you. Congratulations to you. You've worked hard on this. Let me ask you to start off, how is General Flynn doing? What is his reaction this morning?
His reaction at first was one of disbelief and relief at the same time. It's going to take a while to process it. He's obviously very grateful to the Attorney General and Mr. Jensen for having the integrity to dig for the truth and to get it out for the American people to see. And he is looking forward to spending time with his family. I'm sure he'll have a statement to make sometime in the near future.
Sidney, this is obviously a big step toward justice, and our viewers heard this here first. We knew this was coming, but Judge Sullivan still has to sign off on this, Sidney. He's got to sign off on the motion. When are you expecting that to happen?
I would expect it to happen tomorrow or sometime early this week. It's a matter of the prosecutor's actual discretion. Judge Sullivan, according to a couple of Supreme Court decisions, I'm sure he will follow the law there and sign off on it.
Now, I know that there were a few things that we learned in these transcripts that were released as well. And in terms of the way they violated General Flynn's rights.
About to
They
go
did
dark.
not mention the 1001. Tell me about Section 1001 and why that's important, Sydney.
Well, it's the statute that makes it a federal felony to lie to agents. These agents specifically schemed and planned with each other how to not tip him off that he was even the person being investigated. In fact, according to Comey's testimony that's attached to the exhibits they filed in the motion to dismiss, they just simply said, you know, we'd like to send a couple of agents by to talk to you. And of course, General Flynn said, sure. And he saw them as allies. They encouraged him to stay that way. They deliberately did not tell him about 1001 because they didn't want to trigger the slightest suspicion in his mind that he was being investigated or should be concerned about anything. So they kept him relaxed and unguarded deliberately as part of their effort to set him up and frame him. We do have the agent's raw notes, but we do not have the original 302. And we now know from additional text messages produced that there were substantial alterations to the 302s. We have some of those changes between February 10th and 11th, and those are attached as exhibits to one of our briefs that are available on my website.
So, you know, Sydney, I want you to walk through this timeline for us because they also violated White House protocol by ambushing him. And we know that we played that soundbite of Jim Comey saying, oh, it was chaotic. I just sent a few agents over there and just figured it would be better to do it that way. So let's go through the General Flynn crossfire razor timeline. And that begins on August 15th when Peter Strzok, then FBI agent, sent to his girlfriend a text saying, to the extent saying something like, well, I wish I could believe.
So in 2016, they knew there was no Russian collusion.
What you said in Andy's office, but we need an insurance policy. That was discussed in McCabe's office. The following day, on August 16th, they opened a crossfire razor probe into General Flynn. And then on August 17th, FBI agents